Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're really setting out on a mission, to empower you in your daily digital life. Our goal for this deep dive will basically to transform how you interact with your computer, make things smoother, faster, and really pull back the curtain on those fundamental bits that make your machine actually work. We've been looking through a really fascinating collection of notes and articles for this deep dive. It covers everything from like super useful keyboard shortcuts to the actual building blocks inside your devices. Okay, so let's unpack all this. We're aiming to boost your digital efficiency, give you a much clearer idea of what's actually happening under the hood.
And, this isn't just about making things slightly quicker. What's genuinely valuable here, I think, is seeing how these small, seemingly minor tweaks to your daily habits, they can add up. We're talking significant time savings, less mental fatigue over the long run. Think about it reclaiming seconds, then minutes, all through your day or week. It really frees up your attention, for the bigger stuff.
Absolutely, yeah, those small gains are key. And speaking of that, let's just kick things off with something we all know, right? You're drowning in tabs, maybe like 100 open tabs, trying to start a new document or just, desperately hunting for something on your screen. Click, scroll, click again. It feels like a maze sometimes. But what if you could slice through all that, like really fast, really precise, often without even touching the mouse?
Exactly. And what's truly fascinating here is that these simple key combinations, they're not just about raw speed, they actually change how you interact. They reduce that mental friction. Because every time your hand goes from the keyboard to the mouse, you break your flow, right? Shortcuts help you stay immersed, keep your focus where it needs to be on the work itself.
Right. So let's start where, honestly, many of us spend a huge chunk of our time at the web browser. You're probably opening new tabs all the time. So instead of reaching for that little plus icon, just try Ctrl plus T. That's on Windows or Linux. Or CMD plus T if you're on a Mac. Boom.
Yeah.
Instant new tab. Ready to go. It becomes like pure muscle memory after a while. And then when you're done with a tab, Ctrl plus W on Windows Linux or CMD plus W on a Mac closes it right down. But here's a really neat one, the one that often gets that aha reaction. Ever accidentally close a tab you desperately need? It happens all the time. Don't panic. Just hit Ctrl plus Shift plus T, that's Windows Linux, or CMD plus Shift plus T on macOS. And like magic, your last closed tab pops right back up. Seriously, it's a lifesaver.
Oh, it absolutely is. And these little optimizations, these micro optimizations, once they become second nature, they free up so much cognitive bandwidth. Instead of your brain thinking, okay, where's the icon? And your fingers just do it. Your mind stays locked on the information, the stuff you're actually working with. It's optimizing mental energy, not just clicks.
That's a great way to think about it, mental energy. And for those of you who like to keep track of things or maybe find where you've been, you can quickly pop open your browser history. That's CLL plus H on Windows or Linux, or CMD plus Y on a Mac. Different, that one. And for your downloads list, CRL plus J or CMD plus Shift plus J. Again, Mac's a bit different there. These are just quick paths to stuff you might not even realize is so easy to get to. Okay, now for the, let's say, more tech curious out there. Or maybe if you just need to see what makes a website tick, you can open up the developer tools in your browser. It's CLL plus Shift plus I on Windows Linux, or CMD plus Option plus I on macOS. That's a pretty powerful tool for digging around, just a few keys away. And of course, don't forget the basics, CLL plus R or CMD plus R to quickly refresh a page. Super common. And CLL plus click or CMD plus click on a link opens it in a new tab without leaving your current page. It's all about keeping that flow going,
Right.
Now let's shift gears a bit. Let's talk about what I sometimes call the universal actions. Think of these as like your digital Swiss Army knife. They work almost everywhere, any application, pretty much any operating system. We're talking the real fundamentals here, the bedrock of moving stuff around. Cut, copy, paste. So CMD plus X or CMD plus X for cut, CMD plus C or CMD plus C for copy, and CDL plus V or CMD plus V for paste. These aren't just common. They're probably the most critical shortcuts to get into your muscle memory. There's a reason they're so universal. They underpin so much of what we do digitally.
Absolutely. Their universality is precisely what makes them so powerful. Once you've got that muscle memory down for cut, copy, paste, it stops being a conscious thought, right? It becomes a reflex. And that frees up your brain to focus purely on the content, the ideas, the words, the meaning, not the mechanics of shuffling digital bits around. It's foundational for digital work. Frees up brain power for the harder stuff.
Yeah, totally. And beyond that trio, you've got C-Trio plus A or CMD plus A. Select all. Invaluable when you need to grab a whole block of text or a bunch of files quickly. Then there's my personal favorite, honestly, a total lifesaver. C-Trio plus Z or CMD plus D. Undo. Made a mess. Bam. Undo. It's like a mini time machine for your mistakes. And if you undo too far, or change your mind again. while Ctrl plus Y on Windows Linux is redo. Mac users, though, it's CMD plus Shift plus Z, so it's slight difference there, but the function's the same. Very important. Also, never underestimate Ctrl plus F or CMD plus F. Find. Need to locate a specific word on a web page or in a long document. This is your tool. It's not just faster, it dramatically cuts down the mental effort of scanning. Imagine searching a 50-page report visually. Ctrl plus F does it instantly. Lets you analyze, not just hunt. And of course, the essentials. Ctrl plus S or CMD plus S to save. Please save often. And Ctrl plus P or CMD plus P to print. These are just like basic digital hygiene. Okay, so you're getting pretty good with these in-app commands now. Let's zoom out a bit. Let's talk about managing your whole digital workspace, juggling all those open apps in Windows. Right, so switching between different applications. That's Alt plus Tab on Windows and Linux, and TFD plus Tab on macOS. Hold the first key, tap Tab to cycle through, super handy. But what about switching between tabs inside your browser, or maybe inside another app? On Windows Linux, it's usually Control plus Tab, but Mac users, it's a bit more complex. CMD plus Option plus right arrow to go right, CMD plus Option plus left arrow to go left. Definitely a difference there. Shows how different operating systems approach the same task, different design ideas.
That's a perfect example, yeah. It really highlights how different OS designers think about multitasking and user experience. If you zoom out, it's about how each system tries to be efficient, tries to be intuitive, just sometimes using different key combinations to get there. Knowing these differences helps you adapt, maybe even appreciate the logic behind each one.
That's right. And sticking with OS specifics, Windows has some really neat window management tricks built in, like Windows key plus down arrow minimizes the current window. Windows plus up arrow maximizes it. And Windows plus left arrow or right arrow snaps the window perfectly to that half of the screen. Great for comparing things side by side. Oh, and Windows plus D instantly hides everything and shows your desktop. I use that constantly to grab files. Now, for Mac users, you've got CMD plus M to minimize a window. Simple enough, and if things get really cluttered, CMD plus up arrow activates mission control. Gives you that bird's eye view of all your open windows, different desktops. It's a powerful way to manage sprawl. Want to focus? CMD plus CMDM plus F toggles an app into full screen mode. Very slick, helps you concentrate. And what about managing files in, say, File Explorer or Finder? Renaming is often quicker with F2 on Windows Linux. On Mac, you just select the file and hit return. Deleting files. Delete key on Windows Linux. On Mac, it's CMD plus delete to send it to the trash. And our sources highlighted a cool Mac feature. Quick look. Select a file in Finder, hit the spacebar, and boom, you get an instant preview. No need to open the whole app. It's all about speed and less disruption.
All this brings up a really important question, I think, for you listening. How much time? Maybe how much mental energy? How much just efficiency do you think these little keyboard tricks could save you? Think about it over a day, a week, a whole year. The cumulative effect of these tiny optimizations, it's surprisingly big. It frees up that mental bandwidth for the more complex stuff, the creative thinking, the analysis. It's not just faster, it's smarter.
That's a fantastic question. Really drives the point home, doesn't it? Okay, so you're well on your way now. A shortcut virtuoso in the making. But when you press, say, Ctrl plus T on your keyboard, or CMD plus S to save, what's actually happening? What journey does that little electrical signal take inside your machine to become a new tab or a saved file? Let's take a quick peek at the foundational bits, the components inside your computer that make all this digital magic happen.
Yeah, and understanding these basics isn't just for tech geeks or IT pros. It's actually really important for everyone because it helps you understand how your machine turns your commands into actions, why it behaves the way it does. Maybe even helps you figure out small problems or make smarter choices about upgrades later on. It sort of demystifies the box, gives you more control.
Right, so the first step in any interaction is you telling the computer what to do. How do our actions, our physical movements, get turned into something the computer gets? That's where input devices come in. Our sources pointed out the obvious ones. Your keyboard for typing, your mouse for pointing, clicking, maybe a joystick for games, and your microphone to capture sound, your voice. These are the ways we talk to the computer.
Precisely. Each one is basically a translator. It converts your physical actions, key presses, movements, sound waves into digital signals, the language of zeros and ones that the computer's insides can understand and work with. And while those are the classics, the same idea applies to touchscreens, trackpads, even those fancy gesture controls now. It's all about making that translation from human to machine as smooth as possible.
Okay, so you've told it what to do, input's done. Now, how does the computer talk back? How does it show you what it's doing, show you the results? That's the job of output devices. And our sources specifically mention the main one, your monitor.
The monitor, yeah, it's our main window into the digital world, isn't it? It's how the computer shows us everything, text, pictures, videos, applications. But monitors themselves, they've changed so much. From those big, bulky old CRTs to the super thin LCDs and OLEDs we have today, and things like resolution, how many dots, pixels are on the screen, and refresh rate, how often the picture updates, they really affect how sharp things look or how smooth video or games feel. It's not just a screen, it's a constantly evolving window getting clearer and faster all the time.
Good point. Okay, what about all your stuff, your photos, your documents, your apps? Where do they live even when the computer's off? That's storage. Storage devices. Our notes specifically mentioned two types, the USB drive, flash drive, thumb drive, or as the notes called it, a pen drive, and the SSD, the solid state drive.
Right. Storage is all about holding data long term, persistently. USB drives are great for carrying data around small, tough, convenient. But SSDs, they're a huge leap forward for the storage inside your computer. Unlike old hard drives with spinning disks and moving parts like a tiny record player, really SSDs use flash memory. Think of it like a massive, really fast USB drive built in. And that difference, it's not just about booting up faster, it changes how responsive everything feels. Big apps load in a flash, files open instantly, the whole system just feels snappier. It really changes your perception of speed.
Okay, last big piece here. We get to what people often call the brain and maybe the workbench of the computer. Processing and memory. Now, our sources didn't list specific CPU examples, central processing units, but they are the processing devices. The core part that actually does the thinking executes the commands. And there was this one very specific note, stood right out in all caps. It said, memory size you must know.
Yes. That emphasis is completely justified. Let's break that down a bit. Think of the CPU, the processor, as the actual brain. It does the math, runs the programs, executes every single command, including those keyboard shortcuts we talked about. Modern CPUs often have multiple cores, like several mini brains working together to handle lots of tasks at once. Now, that really important note, memory size you must know. That's talking about RAM, random access memory. And it's crucial not to mix up RAM with your storage, like your SSD. RAM is your computer's short-term memory. It's high-speed, temporary workspace. Imagine it like your physical desk. The bigger your desk, the more RAM you have, the more stuff you can have open and spread out right in front of you, ready instantly. Documents, browser tags, apps. If your desk is too small, meaning not enough RAM, you're constantly shuffling things around, putting stuff away to make space. In computer terms, that means the system has to constantly swap data between the fast RAM and the slower storage, SSD. And that causes slowdowns, stuttering, that feeling of lag. It directly limits how many things you can do smoothly at the same time. So yeah, RAM size. It's absolutely central to your day-to-day computer experience.
That desk analogy is really helpful. Yep. Yeah, it makes it so clear why having enough RAM isn't just a tech spec number. It directly impacts how smoothly you can multitask. It's all about that seamless workflow.
Wow.
And there we have it. Wow, quite the deep dive today, all about empowering your digital life. We've gone from, hopefully, turning you into more of a digital efficiency expert with a whole toolkit of keyboard shortcuts, ways to streamline things, reduce that mental load, all the way to giving you a basic grasp of the key hardware inside your machine, how you talk to it, how it thinks, how it remembers your stuff.
Exactly. And knowing this stuff, it's most valuable when you actually understand it and apply it. These insights, small as some might seem, can genuinely transform how you interact with technology. It moves you from just using your tools to really mastering them. Lets you focus on what you want to do, not get bogged down in the how.
So, as you go about your day, here's something to think about. If mastering just a few keyboard shortcuts can save you minutes every single day, make things feel smoother, how many other small, efficient steps could you find? Or maybe consciously put into practice to make an even bigger difference in your productivity? What other sort of invisible efficiencies are just waiting there in your technology if you just take a moment to understand them a bit better? Something to mull over. Until next time, keep digging.